In this week's episode of FAS TV, and on the cusp of Scottish Climate Week, we head back to the Isle of Arran for the Festival of Food and Farming, and a catch-up with consultant Alex Pirie and NetZero Arran, discussing carbon auditing, preparing for the whole farm plan, and promoting sustainable land management.
Hi folks, my name's Alex Pirie. I'm a senior agricultural consultant, and today we are here on the island of Arran. We're joining members of the NetZero Arran group, which is a FAS Connect funded group, and we're here today to mark the beginning of Scottish Climate Week to discuss whole farm plans and carbon auditing, and to get an idea of what local farmers are doing to cut their carbon footprint, lower their emissions and build resilience into their business. NetZero Arran has been running for a number of years now, and we've enjoyed an increasing profile within FAS and FAS Connect. We couldn't do the group without the continued support of FAS, which is great. And over the years, we've been able to quantify individual businesses' carbon audits, to bring together the group and to take collective action for emissions reductions and building nature resilience into our businesses. So throughout the years, we've been looking at issues relating to renewables, livestock production systems, we've looked at small-scale tree planting, we've looked at managing our soils and how to make better use of inorganic and organic fertilisers. And this is very much a farmer-driven initiative. We don't want to force climate change on anybody, and I'm conscious of the fact that climate change isn't for everyone. There are some farmers within the group who aren't particularly interested in climate change, but see the auditing process and the whole farm plan process as a way of building efficiency into their business, making realistic and measurable improvement and benefiting their bottom line. So we have a bit of a broad church approach to the group, but we want to develop the group in such a way that it's beneficial for everybody, that we can have a reasonable conversation about climate change at farmer level and hopefully see improvements throughout the year. So the reason that we've decided to take this local approach to fighting climate change and to tackling our carbon auditing is that, as farmers on an island, there will be very specific challenges that they're facing, challenges that are not necessarily transferable to the rest of Scotland, and we really want to hone in on what local issues are holding back people from making climate improvements and carbon improvements. So bringing together the group in the way that we have, and having these discussions, identifying issues that are holding back multiple businesses on the island, and then investigating what can be done. Taking that approach has proven really fruitful over the years. In terms of addressing climate change, the farming community makes up somewhere between 70 and 80% of Scotland's land use, and really in terms of addressing the climate crisis, biodiversity crisis, it's impossible without the broad support of the farming community. So really want to get across the message that we are proactive, we're positive, we're looking at the whole farm plan as an opportunity to demonstrate the good works that farming's done throughout the years. And yes, there have been challenges to that. There are always bad actors in the industry, but we want to raise the playing field. We want to get our baseline and we want to move forward and do something really exciting with Scottish agriculture. So throughout this piece, we are going to hear from farmers and landowners on Arran within the local community who are taking action to address the whole farm plan, their carbon auditing, their environmental footprint, and build nature into their business. And I think it's going to be a really positive time. So thrilled to have you.
Angus McAllister has been a member of the FAS Connect group NetZero Arran for 4 years now. Having just completed his third carbon audit, Angus reflects on its usefulness in preparing for the whole farm plan.
Well, Cairnhouse was originally started by my grandfather and my father, probably about 70 years ago. My father was only 14 at the time, and it was just a small kind of 20-acre farm. They went on to, they used to grow tatties, sell early tatties. They went on to do a bit of contracting. My grandfather was very much involved with that during the war time, with the war effort. He was in charge of the agricultural tractors and machines around the island for the Department of Agriculture. then, the contracting business was everything from ploughing, dung spreading, baling was a big part of it, and then into lime spreading, and did the lime spreading around the whole island for probably, probably 50 years. That went on for. Then they were into dairying just in a small way, 20 odd cows initially, went up to about 40 cows, but because of the size of the farm we couldn't expand beyond kind of 40 cows. And then like everybody else, dairying was harder and harder to make it work on the island, and we then went into beef. We were partially into beef anyway. We went into beef, and that's why we moved from Cairnhouse over to this was Pirie. There was a bit more land here and it was more suited for beef, so we restructured a bit. We sold a bit of land over there for building, and moved some of the sheds over here and built one or two others that was more purpose built for beef cattle, and it was far easier to manage them. Plus you could just let the cows out and up onto some of the grazing land that was more abundant here. So that's where we are now. It's gone from my grandfather and my father to the three of us, and then it's down to just me now, and my brother gives me a hand. So around about 40 cows. I mean, I had just over 40 cows there, and I was keeping about 8 heifers there. I've kind of tried to cut it back a wee bit, just because the way things are. So I'll probably be cutting back to 30 odd cows, I would say. We grow just over 20 acres of cereals, spring barley, and that's all used for feeding the cattle. And the sheds that I've got here, there's a good slatted shed there, 100 foot of slats, but I've got quite a bit of strawed pens, so all the straw is used on the farm. So I don't need to buy any straw in at all. I've seen me selling a few bales, but mainly it's all for my own use, and we usually have about just over 40 tonnes of barley, and that's all bruised and mixed on farm. So I've got limited amounts of bought-in feed. I buy in a 32% grain balancer to mix with the barley, and they get minerals mixed into that. So that's the way it works here, and it's been quite successful. I'm managing to get my cattle into pretty good shape and away at the right time. It's just a case of mainly we're cutting the numbers of the animals back a wee bit, probably do with a bit less fertiliser. So mainly the feed for the winter is silage and the homegrown barley. So it's a case of trying to reseed what you can, grow the silage as best you can with using the least amount of fertiliser. We do, I've got my own lime spreader still, so we do put on lime, and we have done for several, for years and years, and I think I can see the difference in the grazing land where you're putting enough lime and phosphates, etc. on. Okay, as far as the soils are concerned, it's a case of trying to use as little fertiliser as you can, and putting as much lime and phosphates, etc. on, and doing reseeding as much as you can, to get the most out of the land and keep the soil in good shape. As far as carbon auditing, I thought, initially it was maybe a bit of an inconvenience having to do it, but I can now see the way things are that it's very important, and everybody's going to have to pull their weight and do their part as far as the global warming issue. Well, the fact that I've been doing carbon auditing for 3 years, or 3 carbon audits, I think, I would hope to be in a good position for the whole farm plan, for the future. As far as doing it as a group, I think it probably is helpful, because you can chat among each other and get a better idea, comparisons, who's doing what and what benefits there is to what the outcomes are going to be, different people doing different things, and what the outcomes are. you know, it's bound to be beneficial, I would say, chatting and working in a group. As far as farming on the island, it is a major challenge. Everything we buy and everything we sell, there's a cost involved. You know, everything from haulage to the difficulties, especially in recent years and months with ferries, etc. I think one of our biggest challenges is the weather, and the weather this year has been a major challenge, but we've made good silage, and at the end there we get good barley, get a reasonable crop, and the straw was just as good a straw as I've ever baled. So it can all turn out okay, but on an island it's even more of a challenge because of the ferries and weather, because weather, they go hand in hand.
Robin Irving is well established but new to carbon auditing and gives his impressions and hopes for the future.
I'm Robin Irving, farm at Hawthorne Whiting Bay on the Isle of Arran, 60 odd hectares-ish, and mainly, well, it says all just beef farming. Father came in 1969 and we've been there ever since. I've been interested in carbon auditing for a wee while now, and when the government letter came through, it was the first choice really for me. Dealt with the Farm Advisory Service and went from there basically. It was quite a simple process, really, just 2 or 3 phone calls and just basically went through it all and got most of it done. I've thought about it for years, but it's just been needing that shove to get it done, and obviously you do need to get it done now. And I think it's a worthwhile process. I was aware of the NetZero group, but it was just needing the shove to do something about it and get, you know, move forward and get into it. It doesn't matter what kind of meeting you go to, you always take something away from it and you learn something. So yeah, I'm excited looking forward. I mean, climate change is a big thing, and it's a simple process, so why not get it done? The carbon audit's simple, and it hopefully I can compare with other businesses and learn from them where I can improve in the future. Carbon audit is important, climate change is a big thing, so why not get it done? It's a simple process.
David Bennett is a passionate advocate for rewilding and is hopeful that cooperation with the farming community can benefit climate change and nature on Arran.
I'm David Bennett. We own Drumadoon Farm Estate. We bought it about 35 years ago. We're on the southwest of Arran, just next to Blackwaterfoot Village. We've got about 630 acres. Most of the land has been naturally rewilding, because when we bought the farm we only had a small amount of in-buy land which was actually leased. We've been working with local farmers, Donald and Ailsa Curry. They've been with us for the last 25 years. The question was at the time, what do we do? I've been living in Denmark for 22 years. Drumadoon was sat here, a big worry, owning a piece of ground and a responsibility. About 5 years ago, I came across Scotland Big Picture, the Rewilding Network, NGO, contacted them, and at the time they were just starting the Northwoods Rewilding Network, so we were one of the founder members. That took us into Rewilding Networks, and it's kind of catapulted us into the forefront of Scottish rewilding. And as a landowner, owning farmland as well, it's an interesting combination. We need to move forward into the future. So I'm very interested as owner to look at farming practices, look at things like climate change. We have to move into the future in a sustainable way. Drumadoon is quite an interesting piece of ground because it's covered in archaeology. We've got every designated section in Scotland. We've got triple SSIs, SPAs, and most of the hill land is a scheduled monument. So it's a case of we're actually rewilding a sensitive piece of ground on archaeological terms, but also trying to move into a modern, sustainable farming. We've got about possibly up to 30,000 people walking along the coastal way at Drumadoon onto the King's Caves. We've Scotland, It's often cold and wet. So I thought, let's build a heat source. I've been living in Denmark for 22 years. Hot-cold therapy over there is very strong. The sauna, it's part of some daily life for some people. So I thought, let's bring a mobile four-wheel drive sauna to Arran. We can operate it all over the landscape at Drumadoon, around the island, and and on the beach here. So I mean, it's if it's stormy, windy, what's the perfect thing to do? Take a green goddess sauna. Yeah, I mean the farming plan. We have to move forward in this way. We need to look at NetZero, and we need to start to review farming practices. We've got a responsibility as stewards of the land to move forward in the right way. We're facing multiple challenges, economically, environmentally. So I mean, it's such an important way to step forward in the right way. Scottish Climate Week's coming up, at the forefront of most people's minds. For myself and Drumadoon Estate, we're rewilding. One of the things we're doing on the ground is trying to re-wet the uplands, take care of the peat, plant temperate rainforest again. But climate change is on us. It's how do we plan this with change over the next 100 years of climate? You know, what trees do we put in the ground? How do we hold water on the hill? We're at sea level as well. We've got monuments on the farm, famous sea caves, the King's Caves at sea level, under threat. So we've got archaeology under threat, but we've also got a dynamic landscape which is potentially changing into the future. So I mean, yeah, climate change is vitally important for all of us to understand and to move forward. The Arran NetZero group, again, it's so important to start to bring people together in the community and in the farming community to try to move into the future in the right way. Arran is very good at communication and cooperation. The communities are I think it's a very strong part of the DNA of the Arran communities is to cooperate with each other. Of course, we're on an island as well. So it's vitally important for us to get together and to talk about these things. Often people hear the word rewilding and they think about, I think especially now, green lairs and people being thrown off the land, farmers being thrown off the land, people planting trees for carbon. My understanding of rewilding is completely the opposite of that. It's actually about bringing community, bringing people back into that landscape. And farming it has to be an integral part of that. There's room and space for everybody, and farming has to start to shift into this net zero area, and the rewilded landscape is part of that. So I mean, farming is vitally important to rewilding in Scotland.
Simon Ross-Gill coordinates the Arran Pioneer project, aimed at bringing derelict and unused land into productive activity on the island for community benefit. Simon gives his thoughts on sustainable land management.
Hey, I'm Simon Ross-Gill. I'm from the Arran Pioneer project, which is an organisation that has been working over the last 4 years to take unused land on the island and transform that to food production, empowering local communities around Arran to grow their own food and to have space to grow their own food in community gardens and other spaces as well. Today I'm at the Arran Farmers Market in Bellevue, in which we have a number of local producers, farmers and different craftspeople who've gathered at the Farmers Market, which happens 4 times a year. And today I am scything, which is one of the environmentally friendly traditional land practices that we're trying to promote around Arran as a way of managing land in a more environmentally friendly way and traditional way. There's many benefits to scything, and I always compare it to strimmer. There are many advantages to scything over strimming. First of all, you don't need petrol. It's very simple technology, which doesn't require the specialist maintenance that you need if your strimmer breaks down. And also, it's really lightweight compared to a strimmer, which makes it much easier to transport around the island and use it in remote locations. It's also very good for mental health and mindfulness practice, using the scythe out in the field. So there are many benefits to using the scythe over strimming or any petrol-driven kind of lawnmower or anything like that. So it's important to me because I think traditionally we have a lot of ways of managing land that are much more effective and actually better for us as well as being good for the environment and avoiding burning fossil fuels. So that's why scything is important to me. It's also really good fun. So we run scything demonstrations throughout the year, and that's listed on our website, which is pioneerproject.scot. So you can go to pioneerproject.scot, and we have an events page there. If you just go to the Get Involved section, then that will have a list of our upcoming events, which includes scything and other activities. Today we're also doing apple pressing at the farmers market, and we also have a display on ancient grains because we've been trying to grow more grains on the island which have been used traditionally, such as emmer and rye and wheat. So we run activities throughout the year at different garden spaces around Arran and community gardens. So you can find out more on our website, and if you look Pioneer Project on Facebook and Instagram as well, you'll find us there.
So thanks very much for watching this episode of FAS TV. It's been really good to be back on Arran. Hope you've enjoyed this overview of the Festival of Food and Farming. Hopefully we've kicked off Scottish Climate Week in good fashion. And for more information on what NetZero Arran are doing, for testimonials, for updates on our carbon footprints, you can find all that information and more on the FAS.Scot website.